Hey, I'm Matt Hudgins, and he's Dave Mulvaney, and this is Profitability MD. Dave, how you doing today, buddy?
Matt, I'm doing great. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Can't believe 2020 off to another raging start.
Here we are.
Here we are once again, episode
The next
54.
decade. Yes, episode 54.
And we were going to call this the play on words. Do you 2020 vision for your business in 2020? Right? 2020 vision.
Year of perfect vision. That's what this year is all about.
That's really funny. And then I have a daughter who was born on the 20th in '02. So it's 02, 20. Anyway, there's a lot of '02s and 20s in this year for me too.
And it's a leap year.
It is a leap year. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I had a comment on a couple of people's posts about, they said, hey, 365 days. And the next year I'm like, no, it's 366.
Oh, that's pretty funny. I never thought about that.
Yeah, so we get an extra day this year.
We got an extra day.
So that's good.
All right, man. Let's talk about kind of year-end reviews or your 2020 outlook. So I always like to kind of start off kind of last year, what worked, what didn't work, what could we improve upon?
I think that's the most important thing. In order to look forward, you got to look back and exactly like you just said, what worked, what didn't work, what could I have improved on? Am I being honest with myself about everything that I set out to do in the first place? Those types of things.
Right. So I would say you start off with kind of celebrating the successes.
Yeah.
So what all did you accomplish this year? So I don't know. You want to name a couple of things?
Well, I hit my exercise. I exceeded my exercise goal for the year. I always do it in a certain amount of days. And I hit my what I call my mind goal, which is a certain amount of books a year, a certain amount of study time, studying various courses, whatever. I mean, I literally just bought another course today.
Oh no! Did you tell me you weren't going to do that?
5 minutes before this started, I'm a course. I'm junkie. A knowledge junkie, is what I am. So.
There you go.
Because I like a good copywriting message, and this one was really good. I literally screenshotted the entire thing, and then I said, well, I got to see his upsells, so I bought. Then I want to see the other upsells, and I bought. And so, but that gives me that, again, that's part of a goal. That gives me the ability to hit knowledge goals, understanding. Doesn't, and what I try to do with like I said, every book I read or every course I take is not try to do everything. I try to do something. I think that's part of the goal there.
Well, let's go back. So that's actually awesome, by the way. So that goes, question number 2 I was going to say was, what have I learned this year? So you have some knowledge goals, and it sounds like you're buying another knowledge tool. That's pretty good, right?
So I'm always reading about real estate, so I learned more about real estate. That was last year I spent a lot learning about commercial real estate, which is what propagated me to buy this course. So
that's pretty good. All right. So why don't we just go one at a time? So you go, all right. So what are you going to do to improve your personal, let's call them your personal goals, your personal fitness goals? You had mentioned that. You have a number of days. I forget. Do you remember days you work out or exercise, or how does that work?
Exercise 250 days a year. That is just a little under, that averages out at 5 a week, but you got some vacation time in there. My wife and I do vacation probably in the area of 30 days a year. And a lot of times the reality is when I'm on vacation, we wake up, we have a giant breakfast, and then we go out during the day, and then I'll have a beer at lunch. And once I have that beer at lunch, I am not going to exercise the rest of the day. And I don't consider golf exercise. So
well, it is, man. When you play golf, you're 5 to 7 miles of walking plus swinging the club.
Walk, but I typically take a cart.
No, even in a golf cart, it's 5 miles. I have no step.
I know, because my watch, it lets you know that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that 5 miles is exercise. Don't sell yourself short.
I don't think that I know you don't do this, but when I play golf, I don't think anything can be called a sport if you can do it with cigar in one hand and a beer in the other.
Hey, it's still burning calories. Quit selling yourself short. 5 miles is 5 miles. Cigar in hand or not.
I got you. But
So you
let's
can improve upon that or keep the same kind of goal, 250 exercise days.
I always do 250 exercise days.
Okay.
And, so I've set some more stringent. I said I'm going to run a 15K. So I signed up for a 15K in May.
Okay.
So doing some other things beyond what I would normally do exercise wise. So I'm going to force myself a little there. But how about you? What did you accomplish this year what had you learned this year?
Yeah. So I would say a couple things. So let's see. Financially, I've reached two milestones, both as income and as growth size. So I had a really, really good 2019 on the business front. Very, very excited about that. So I want to challenge myself to, not just sit on my laurels, but kind of continue to improve upon that. Right. So my next steps would be, I got some specific stuff we'll talk about here in a second about how do I improve what I've already done well, right? What's working so I can keep doing more of that, right? On the personal fitness side, I lost 10 pounds. I think we talked about that. I was doing that 75 hard. I didn't make it all 75 days because I kind of hit my 10-pound loss thing in like 5 weeks. And then I got lazy. Lazy is not the right term. Maintenance is a better term. So I was going to do that again this January, maybe January, February, do it for 4 to 6 weeks, try to lose another 10 pounds and then maintain it. Right. I mean, it's pretty intense for while you're on this program, this 75 hard. Remember we talked about that where you're working out twice a day and you're counting your calories, all that kind of stuff, drinking a bunch of water. So I like that. I'm going to do it again, try to lose another 10 pounds. And then instead of feeling bad about going on maintenance, I'm just going to go on maintenance. But maintenance for me is still exercising every day. I have trouble not exercising every day. So I want to continue to do that. Vacation wise is pretty funny. I think we look back, I think I took 6 weeks of vacation this year, 2019. So that's actually pretty impressive. I didn't realize it was that much.
So if you're watching or listening to this podcast, you got two entrepreneurs on this podcast, both who said they took 4 to 6 weeks of vacation. Okay. If you're an entrepreneur and you're maybe lucky to take 1 week a year, you got problems that you got to fix. That's what you need to fix in 2020
you're following the wrong system. Like I think you and I are examples of literally how to make more money. We both made more money last year and how to take more time off. I mean, that's literally what we teach and what we practice. Right.
Yeah. And I think too many entrepreneurs, too many gurus teach you got to be like, I don't believe you cannot work your way to wealth. I don't believe you can work your way to rich, but here's a perfect example.
Let me tell you this real quick because I literally had this and I knew that wasn't going to be a good person to work with. But the person had the belief, well, gosh, Matt, in order to make more money, I have to work more. And I said, that's exactly wrong. That is exactly wrong. You don't have to work more to make more, right? That's what you were just about to say. And it's like, no, you got to work right. Remember the 80-20 rule, doing your A+ activities. I mean.
Well, let's take Warren Buffett, for instance. Okay, he's worth, I don't know, we'll just say 50 billion. I don't know what the guy's worth, but it's 50 billion. Does he work, 5,000 times harder than me? No. Does he work 500 times harder than me? No. Does he work twice as hard as me? No. That's the point is, well, then why does he make that much money? It's because he works less and makes more because he does the things that make money. And that is about having your money, making money, a lot of other things.
Well, it goes right back into time management. You and I have talked about that before, right? That, managing your time and focusing on A+ activities, right? So a goal could be if you look back and you say, gosh, I didn't have enough vacation time this past year, then, we would tell you to put that first. How many vacation days do you want? And let's put that in the calendar right now. It's January. Let's put that in the calendar. How many do we want this next year? Go ahead and put them in and then work way around them.
Something my wife used to do in January of every year is literally, because I used to go on vacation with a sister and brother-in-law of mine and their kids, the two families would go together. They would call each other in January and they would book 2 vacations in January, and I didn't have a choice because my wife would just put it on my calendar. It's on my calendar. And so that's a good way to live is actually to say, okay, we're going to just do, back then it was 2 weeks a year, but let's stay on track though, is who contributed, that's the thing, who contributed to your success? Right. Partially this show for me is, look, you and I have never talked about monetizing this show. We've gone a couple times back and forth, and we're just anybody listening to it, all 8 of you. I know, and I make a joke about that, but we've never done this because at the on the onset we wanted to make money. We know we're good at helping people, and we do make money helping people, but the reality is we started something 12 months ago, and that was one of the accomplishments that happened in 2019. Like, what was one of the things you accomplished this year? We stuck with this 52 weeks. We did this every week, and we never, we never gave up. And for a lot of people, they will never do something 52 weeks in a row if it doesn't make them money. They'll throw in the towel because if you're doing it just to make money, I think that's why a lot of people never will become a business coach. They'll never become a lot of things because, oh, well, I didn't make money in 6 weeks, so I guess I ought to give up.
Well, and that's pretty funny. I think part of this podcast, both for me personally and hopefully for you, is that we kind of hold each other accountable. And I definitely learn from you, and hopefully you're learning from me. And I know that it's my business. I know you and I do podcast. You can get your own conversation. I'm unstable.
Again, you're breaking up a little bit.
There we go. All right. But what I was saying was, you and I just having this conversation is making me a better business person. And I know that it's working or bleeding into my businesses, right? I know that it's helping me make more money and be more successful. The conversation we have is engaging. It's accountable. It's accountability to each other. We're starting to have some pretty cool guests where I'm learning more things from our guests. So I think
that's why I brought that up, because of who contributed to your success.
Yeah.
You've contributed to my success this year. Because
you too.
It's been an accountability. If anything, that's more than anything is we've been accountable to our once a week, but we've also been accountable to bring some content to the table. And then after we bring that content, if we don't go do something about it the next week, we're asking each other, hey, how'd that go? How'd that go?
Right. Exactly right. Exactly.
It helps me keep my ADHD in order. So
that's right. Cut down on the distractions, right?
Yeah. So
wait, I was going to go back to the vacation stuff. So it's so funny. We talked about that a little bit more. So I literally am going through my calendar right now. And so I'm a golfer. That's kind of my thing. So I've gotten a golf trip in February and in March. I'm working on one in April. We got spring break. I got a graduation trip for my daughter. We got 2 weeks at the beach. I'm putting together a Scotland or Ireland trip. I got another trip, business trip, where I'm going to tie some pleasure onto that in Mexico in October. I'm looking to do something in September, and then there's still Thanksgiving and Christmas.
And we're probably going to put on 2 or 3 events this year, aren't we?
Oh, that's what I would think. Those aren't even in there, and I'm sure there'll be some leisure time before and after those events too. So
it's got to be a promise, a day, at least one day after, to play some golf. I
think that would be good. But my point is, got to put it in the calendar. I'm having more fun planning out my year for 2020 on the vacation side. That just energizes me right off the bat. Here I am, a couple of days in, and I'm already planning and other things I want to plan to get on the calendar.
Well, you got to take time to sharpen your axe. I think too many people think that you just keep hitting chopping the wood. And if you don't sharpen the axe, you're going to beat yourself to death. And the older you get, I think that's one of the things that you learn. You're like, I just can't. It's not that I can't work like I once did. It's like I won't work once.
I would even argue that it's you don't have to, or you don't need to. It's actually anti, right? So instead of like my father, who thinks you work really hard and then you get the vacation, I think it's the opposite. I think you need the time off to recharge the batteries. So then when you're working harder and more focused, right? So the batteries are a recharge. The vacations are a recharge in your batteries. They're not a reward for working hard. They're a necessity so you can work harder after the vacation, right?
Exactly.
Recharge the batteries.
That's good. So what mistakes did I make? That's one of your questions that you sent out in your email. What mistake did I make and what did I learn from them?
Yeah, so that's pretty funny. So I was just mentioning that 75 hard. I didn't make it all 75 days, but I did lose my 10 pounds. So I would say one of the mistakes I did was kind of it was too hard on myself. In other words, I accomplished the goal of losing 10 pounds, so it doesn't matter that I didn't do the 75 days. So it's almost like in that particular instance, it's focus on the result, not the result, right? The 10-pound loss was what I really wanted. I didn't really want the 75 days. I really wanted the 10 pounds, right? And so this year, as I just told y'all to start the thing, I was going to do my 10 pounds, however long it takes, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it and then not feel bad about, hitting the maintenance thing.
And that's kind of how I feel about it. That's why I do the 250 days of exercise. I know that I try to do 6 days a week, no matter what. But there are times that's just not possible. You got family events, you got all these things that go on. Sometimes I've got to be in Orlando to meet a client at, I got to be down there at 7 or 8 in the morning, and I've got to leave at, 4:30 in the morning. When am I going to exercise? By the time I get back, I'm going to be beat. I've been on the road 6 hours, those type of things. Some people, but that's why I set a specific number. And then I think this is where it's so important about, I don't know if your chart has this. I track everything. I count.
Right.
I even track my blood pressure every day.
Do you really? Wow. Okay.
My blood pressure is great, but it goes on the calendar every day. How was my eating yesterday? That goes on the calendar. Literally everything. Did I exercise? What exercise did I do? Really what I asked myself, did I sweat? Did you sweat?
Right.
A good question. Did you sweat? That's an exercise goal. How about money goals? Those are, I had this conversation with somebody. Actually, it'll be in my blog post this week. Why didn't you hit certain goals?
Right.
And this was a conversation that I had at the wedding. And what it boils down to is whether it's me, you, or anybody, the reason you don't hit a goal is because it was not important to you. Because
that's the truth, right?
Well, the truth is really hard because we tell ourselves stories on why we don't do something. But the truth is you have every single thing that you really want because you do the things that it takes to get what you want. If you want to be a great tennis player, you're out on the court practicing all the time. If you want to be a great musician, you practice all the time. I'm not talking about professional level. I'm just talking, you want to be a great golfer, you play and you practice all the time. You want to be a great teacher, coach, whatever, you're coaching all the time, whether you're getting paid or not. And so when you don't have money, it's because, well, you didn't put in the time and the effort and all the things that it takes to have that amount of money that you set out to have, or the goal, the motorhome, the private jet. I have a friend who wants a private jet. And I'm going to say it here. He may watch this. The reason you don't have the private jet and you're starting to do the things that sound like justification. He told me a couple of years ago, I want a private jet. But now he's saying, hey, I can buy these memberships. And so he's like,
right,
bringing his goal down to fit his income rather than elevating his game to get the jet that he wants.
Right. Now, here's interesting, though, what I would build upon that if it's the money goals can be two type of goals, and they are end result goals. I want a dollar amount, but I also believe firmly in like process goals. If I'm doing the right thing, good things will happen, right? So you could have the process goal, like you were saying, 250 days of exercise. You know that you're either going to lose weight or maintain weight just by default, right?
Yes.
Because the process of doing 250 days of exercise, those are only two outcomes. Gaining weight is really not one of those outcomes, right? It's going to maintain it or lose it depending on what else you do. So I think there's something to be said about process goals. If you don't have your money goal yet, maybe you need some better processes or systems to follow, right?
Well, I didn't set any money goals this year.
Yeah.
In 2020, I shouldn't say I have no money goals. I have some money goals, but it's not like I don't even, I care, but it's like, that's not what I want to surprise myself. Okay, I put up some goals. I know what I want financially.
Right.
But what I mean by that, I don't want to say that I don't have money goals. I want to acquire some companies this year. Well, those are going to create opportunities that I've never had before. I don't think I've ever acquired a company. So that was one of the things that I started saying, well, instead of just purchasing commercial real estate, why don't I buy companies and sell the commercial real estate if they own the company, and then I'll take the company and literally make it profitable and then sell that. So I'll acquire real estate inside of a company because it makes more sense. But so will there be some great financial gains from that? Yeah. And so I set a goal to acquire 3 companies this year. We'll see how that works.
Yeah. That's interesting.
We'll talk about that offline, but
yeah.
But there was no dollar figure I put on this year, which was very different than other years. I did say what I want is a minimum income.
Right.
I can't live under this number. Don't we all have that number though?
All got to pay the light bills.
Yes. I mean, if we go into that number, then I'm not going to get 30 or 60 days of vacation this year.
Well, it's funny. I was going back to like, what mistakes did I make and what did I learn from them? And this is one constant probably for me, and it might be for a lot of business owners, is, the shiny object syndrome, right? And so if I look back and say, one of my mistakes is I go down these tangents too easily, right? Easily distracted. And so what works for me is picking, 1, 2, 3 things to focus on and sticking to those kind of core values. And that breeds, that's like that process goal that I was telling you about. When I started 2019 last year, the goal was to enhance the client experience for my existing clients. So number 1, keep my existing clients happy, right? That's the number 1 goal. And there are various subcategories of how I'm going to do that, right? And then the goal was to grow the coaching business and various ways to do that as well. Those were the only 2 goals I had. Oh, and then the personal goals on the golf and physical fitness, that type of stuff. And so when I focus on just those 3 goals, and a matter of fact, those are my same 3 goals this year: keep existing clients happy. And there are sub goals of how to do that, grow the coaching business with process goals of how to do that. And the personal goals for me is, family time and golf and health, weight, in shape kind of stuff. But what happens to me is I get distracted and get off of those. When I just have and focus back, hey, if it doesn't have to do with one of those 3 things, then I probably shouldn't be doing it this year.
And see that, so we're covering a lot without on the surface. So mind, body, spirit, and relationships. And spirit doesn't have to be like, if you don't believe in God, I don't know everybody, I don't know what everybody's beliefs are, who would watch it. It doesn't matter. When I talk about spirit, I'm talking about you as a spiritual being. You're doing all those things. You're recognizing, in order for me to have it all, I guess you could say,
right?
As Garrett J. White would say, if you want to have it all, you've got to have it in all these areas. And if you get on a tangent in one area too deep, it'll take you away from another area. So you focus on all areas, and in fairness to all areas of your life, including your relationship. That's time with your family, time with your spouse, time for yourself, but you still have your business goals where you take care of your clients, and you've got to have that as a man. I believe you got to have that business side of things. Yeah. And then you've got your investments too, and your golf time.
Well, it's interesting. So I look down here. The last question is, what's missing for me this year? And I forget who it was. It might have been, anyway, I forget who it was. But one of my workshops or another article I was reading, and it said, all right, let's say it's a year from now. And this isn't the Dan Sullivan question, but it's kind of like the Dan Sullivan. If it's a year from now, so now it's, December 31st of this year, and you've got everything else taken care of, money-wise and family-wise, what does it look like? What does it look like? And so when you go through the exercise and you say, well, I want to be 10 pounds lighter, I want to have a better golf game, I want to be making more money, I want to be taking more time off, I want to be spending more time with my family, right? And then you're supposed to say, well, if that's what you want a year from now, why don't we start doing that now, right? Why don't we build the processes, the map to get us there, right? So whatever's missing from your life this year, it's kind of that number 10. What's missing from your life and how can I get there? You know, if you're not spending enough family time, you know, you need date night with your spouse. Well, let's start putting that together, right? Let's quit waiting let's quit waiting until everything's perfect, till you have everything in the bank, right?
Yeah, well, date night can mean, you know, what, I don't care if you got money or you don't have money. If you're not taking, and you're married and you're not taking, or you're even dating and you're not taking time with that person, you're gonna have some rough times in that area.
Oh yeah. No, that's not my point. My point though was what would be an ideal day a year from now? And if your money's taken care of and your family's good and all that stuff, what does it look like? And knowing that's what it looks like, well, why would you wait? Why would you wait till next year? Why don't you just start doing that now?
Yeah.
You want to lose, you know, I look at it like this, and we've talked about this before, maybe offline, I can't even remember, in that, you know, there is no excuse for me, and this is me personally, and maybe for you, there's no excuse for me to not be in good shape, right? I have a good metabolism. I'm fortunate with that. I'm very hyperactive to begin with. There's no reason I shouldn't be exercising every day. There's no reason I shouldn't be watching what I eat every day, right? There's no reason I shouldn't be whatever body type I want it to be, right? What is that? It's time and money. We can make both those happen, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're only given us so much time in your life.
Yeah. And so why wait? If you said, well, I'm going to get in shape a year from now, well, when the business is taken off, then I'm going to take care of myself. Well, that's take care of business done. Matter of fact, I believe if
your
coaching client,
the sound went out there, Matt.
Oh, okay. What I was saying, one of the things I start with my coaching clients is, hey, do you have an exercise routine? If not, you need to get on one, right? And if that means getting up an hour or 30 minutes earlier to put one in, or going to bed an hour later, then that's what you need to do, right? That you got to have exercise in there because it just blood flow, healthy, clears your brain, gives you time to think. That you got to have that as part of your elements of success. Being healthy, being active.
I have to say, when I look back on when I had V blocks and it was booming, I got to where I was 50 pounds overweight at one point. I wasn't paying attention to the exercise portion. So you can have success, and I had the vacations and the money and all of that, but I was really letting my health go down.
Right.
And it was affecting me on a mental level, because you can't look at yourself in the mirror and without lying to yourself.
Right. Right.
Because you're saying, well, I don't have time. No, you got more time in the morning. You just need, get up even early.
Get up 30 minutes early, right?
Yeah, whatever you have to do, but you got to do it. There's no excuse unless you lie to yourself.
Right. So, same thing though for money. Go back to your money goals, right? Why don't you have the money you want? Because you're not doing the right things that cause money. You're not following up. You're not making the cold calls. You're not making the appointments. You're not servicing your existing clients. I mean, that goes back to what you and I have talked about before is the DOS question. Dan Sullivan has this thing that's kind of like a SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And I always say, all right, what are the top 3 concerns that are keeping you up at night? All right. What are those 3 things? What are the top 3 opportunities? You know what you probably should be doing if you had the time and money to do it. What are those things, right? And then strengths. What are the 3 things that you do really well that if you had more time or money, you would do more of, right? But you could take those for your business, those same 3 questions. What's keeping you up at night? What are the opportunities? What are the strengths I wish I could do more of, right? You could do the same thing about your health and fitness, right? You could do the same thing about your relationship with your kids, with your spouse, right? That or at least my belief is most of us know what we should be doing. We're just not doing it.
And then the only way you don't do it is if I like to say you're lying to yourself. You're certainly not being honest with yourself. Because what happens is you start telling yourself stories on why you're not doing it. And those stories, they sound really good, but they're still lies.
Right. It goes back to being accountable, right? Hold yourself accountable, right? Hold yourself accountable. Get an accountability friend. You know, if people tell you, I've heard this stuff about weight loss, is like, you should tell everybody in the world that you're going on a diet, or everybody in the world that you're trying to lose 10 pounds, because then it kind of holds you accountable, right? You should have a business accountability buddy. You should have a coach or a mentor. Any of those things help, right? We know what we should be doing. We might need help doing them, right?
The level of success you'll have will be determined by the questions you ask yourself. So and I'm talking to me now.
Yeah.
When I tell myself a story, I will ask myself, is that true?
That's pretty good.
And that's a question. And then you're like, well, it's kind of true. And then but kind of true means it's kind of false too. So you start asking yourself these deeper questions, and you get to the root of something, and you're like, yeah, I guess I am making an excuse. And I'm saying this to myself. It's my self-talk. The questions you ask yourself will determine your level of success.
Yeah. And I always come back to my three questions are always, what's working, what isn't working, and brainstorm how I can improve that.
Yeah.
On any subject, right? Health, business, family. What's working, what isn't working, what could brainstorm how we can improve. Right? Because that's telling the truth, right? What's working, what isn't working, brainstorming. Hey, I'm not doing this because of X, Y, Z, right?
Because you don't allow yourself in there. What's working? You say this is working.
Factual statement.
Yeah. What's not working? And
actual statement.
Not giving yourself an out on either one of them. You're just, hey, what was working, what's not? And it's just the facts. And then you're looking at those facts and saying, what can I improve on?
Yeah.
And if you that's three good questions that will definitely change the way the next month. I mean, especially if you bring them down to a daily basis. What worked today? What didn't work today? What am I going to do better tomorrow?
That's pretty good. All right. So this was episode 54, 2020 vision for your business in 2020. We could just copy these questions and put them on the little YouTube channel and on our Profitability MD.
I think so. I think I'll put them in the YouTube channel in the text, and
I'll put them on the podcast notes as well.
All right.
Where do we find Dave Mulvaney?
Find me at davidmulvaney.com. You can find this podcast at profitabilitymd.com.
Our new website.
Yep. And where can we find you, Matt?
Yeah, find me at 10xprofitblueprint.com. LinkedIn is always good. And we're gonna do an event. I think we need to do an event in the first quarter.
We're going to do an event in the first quarter. So we're being accountable to all 8 listeners. We'll have a lot more listeners as things go along. And I make that joke. I don't know how many we have on the podcast, but that's what matters is if we hear from you, then we'll know that you actually listen and enjoyed. Or tell us.
Really, MD. All right, Dave, take it easy, buddy.
All right, Matt, take care.